Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Welcome back to Houselights, our director discussion show here on the Nerd Party Network. Today, we are continuing with the House of Zwick, with jumping to the 1990s with 98's The Siege. Hey, it's Denzel's back. I didn't even have to change that from the last time I hosted. Denzel's back yet again. And with this film, we're going to see, has it aged in both a pre-post 9/11 world? I'm Darren, FBI Liaison Moser, and I'm joined again by my friends John Microwave Mills and General Tristan Riddell. Gentlemen, what's the chatter?
What?
Yeah.
I'm the bald one. How the hell am I not the general here?
I
Put
look
a bad
better in a
wig on
suit.
me. Oh,
It was
right.
the
We'll have to
alliteration
agree to
of
disagree,
Microwave and
friend.
Mills. That's what did it. If you have to
all right.
know. That's what it came
That's
down to.
fine because I love Tony Shalhoub and I love his character in this film. But come
He's so
on,
good.
I was made for a bad wig. We all know this. Come on. Come on.
Okay, you can both be the bad general that resists the temptation to occupy the island of Manhattan, but then gives in and becomes the cliche bad guy.
Caesar had to turn down the crown 3 times before he accepted it. Just remember that. It's very, very Shakespearean.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Well, this movie, normally when we keep track of things in our spreadsheet, we note if we had seen this before, and unless nobody's been updating it, all 3 of us had seen this before this weekend. So I think the main question is, was it a more recent viewing, or did either of you guys see this in 98?
Yo, 98 right here. I was
All
in
right.
the theater.
Pre 98 for John. What about you, Tristan?
I saw it in 98 as well, or depending on when it came out, 99, because this was a blockbuster rental for me.
Okay, it was November of 98, so it probably might have been.
So it's probably 99. Yeah, I saw this in 99.
I think I did as well. This would have been around sort of high school-ish time for me. I definitely saw it again. I own it. It's a really interesting, kind of makes me think of like John Clancy type stuff or Peacemaker. Again, different vibes, obviously, and quality. But so interesting. So all 3 of us saw this in the 90s. This
Post 93, pre 2000.
Pre 2001.
Yep.
Yeah, specifically because, man, this movie, I'm pretty sure you would not make if this was coming out in 2000 or even 2000. If this was November 2001, it was meant to come out. I think they would have just scrapped the whole thing. They would have just. I don't think they would have released this at all.
Probably, and I'll be the one. I'll throw myself right into the line of fire here. I would have thought that to be a shame, because this is a movie where the discomfort for me watching it this time is the fact that back in 98, it was not such a radical proposition for Denzel to be talking about warrants and civil liberties and all of it. And it's like the conversation changed considerably after 2001. And then boy howdy, when we repealed Smith-Mundt and then the NDAA, and I'm not trying to get radical here or anything like that, but like there have been some changes. There have been some changes in the laws where like you look at this movie and it's like, oh, well, that's quaint. Look, we were still concerned with those things back then. How cool.
It's like when you watch Home Alone and they're like, oh, look at them all going together to the airplane gate, or, basic things like that don't exist anymore. Like it is.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like, you watch this movie and you have this huge buildup and this huge scene when they're openly discussing, man, we're going right into it, openly discussing torturing this individual, like right in front of him. And Denzel is just in the corner. He's kind of playing the audience there. He's just kind of like, what are you
like
talking about?
Discussing this. And he reminds them, like, this is a U.S. citizen. This is just a guy off the street.
That's the biggest part of it too, is it's like there, and I'm not trying to be glib here, but like actually the premise in the very beginning where they, Bruce Willis orchestrates the abduction of the guy, I can't help but sit there in my brain and I'm like, oh, this is a drone strike now, and I'm not saying that to be dismissive or to diminish that that's just how this movie would have started this time. It wouldn't have been, oh, we're going to abduct him to question him. It would be like, oh, they blew up his Mercedes and now people are mad about it. Like that's basically how it goes. And it's, again, I'm not being glib, and I'm not going for a punchline
Central
there.
Park, and they drone strike it, and people are more mad about Central Park being destroyed or attacked than they are about this person dying. Like,
or what? Oh, look what it did to traffic.
right.
Like it's a fascinating movie too, because I think both its strengths and its greatest weaknesses are in how it's trying to approach the whole question. Like, and what I mean by that is when you deal with Denzel Washington's character, Hub, and Tony Shalhoub's character, like that's a literal story. That's what's happening here. That's your procedural drama.
Yeah.
But then when you get to the Annette Bening part, it's clunky and it's clumsy because she's metaphorically representing U.S. foreign policy. And it's like, as a result, it can't pick a lane as a result. And like, I think that's the most challenging thing about the movie right from the outset is the Annette Bening stuff works if you're like, okay, this represents something. And then you look at the FBI investigation and you're like, this is something.
Right.
And
it's
it's
just
like
two guys in New York.
and it's, so, I mean, like I would ask you guys, like the Annette Bening role, should she have been more of a ghost? Should she have been more of like a MacGuffin that they're chasing through the movie? Or like, do you think it meshes as well as it needs to?
Well, because there's that twist. The twist is that she's been sleeping with the enemy and has, and they kind of go for the redeeming sacrifice at the 11th hour of like, oh, she basically, dies to save the, save civilians. But yeah, it's a really interesting way of telling the story because she's right there in the middle of their investigation. And we're kind of meant to trust her, but yeah, would that be different if she was more of we never saw them in the same room together, but we saw her pulling her strings over here, and our guys are over here, and we know they're coming to a head at some point. I'm not sure if that would be even better. What do you think, Tristan?
I feel like Annette Bening's character should have been in the movie just as much as Bruce Willis's character. I feel like she shouldn't have been. She should have not been in the picture more than Tony Shalhoub's character. It should have been much more on Denzel and Shalhoub together, working the problem from a domestic standpoint. And Annette Bening's character still represents what she represents, America's foreign policy, the CIA, and all the crap that they do overseas and what they instigate, what they try to cover up, and at the same time what they try to do well. And then you have, and they encounter her along the way in the same way that Denzel encounters Bruce Willis along the way. They have that back and forth with Elise's character of, can we trust her? Can we not? Can we trust her? Can we not? And then we have, General Devereaux, which when we see him, we kind of like, hey, this guy has a good head on his shoulders. Like he obviously has some sort of cabinet position. And that's why he's in a suit all the time, but he's still a general, kind of like Colin Powell. And
yeah,
but
he's Colin Powell vibes.
But his line about how, the army is a broadsword, not a scalpel. We need to rely on the FBI to do their job. And we're just like, as the audience, you're like, yeah, no, totally makes sense. Yeah, this
Bruce
guy
Willis
knows what's going on.
Kind of has the best quotable lines of this whole movie. Like
Absolutely.
You said, the scalpel line, the whole, there's nothing more disruptive to the fabric of a nation of policing, or occupying its own people. You're just like, oh man. And he delivers it. And I almost, as far as like how much he's in it. I mean, I know he's in a lot of scenes, but it feels like, for 2 weeks, Bruce Willis showed up and shot all of his stuff and then was out. Like it's so minor.
And that's what I feel like should have happened with Annette Bening because it like John, I agree with you 100%. Like her aspect, even though I like her and I like what she represents, that was Ebert's main criticism of the film is that it got clumsy once we got into the investigation. It got really clumsy, and I think that's kind of a main detriment to the film is that it tried to do too much with the politics, with CIA, with the military, with the FBI, with the Islamic the American Islamic Association, just everything. It's just like there was so much going on at once, and they could have really fine-tuned the CIA aspect, I think.
I mean, this movie is under 2 hours. It's very fast, and they cover a lot of time. Like, there's several days of things going wrong for them.
When you said the 2 hours thing, it's interesting because that's something we all noted about Glory as well. And, same director, 10 years later, basically, this is the type of movie where it's like, wait, why isn't this 2.5 or 3 hours?
Right, give it 30 more minutes.
Yeah, this feels like it needs more. While we're sitting there and we're saying, oh, we should pull Annette Bening out, you could still proportionally keep her and Bruce Willis, to the same percentage of that 2.5 hours, and then give, instead of having her out with everybody drinking and then pseudo seducing Hub or whatever, and instead focus on Tony Shalhoub pouring out his heart and talking to Hub about his fears and about where this is headed, and those sorts of, like, give more to that. So it's like, it's almost like it's suffering this identity crisis between action film and epic drama, right? Like it's almost like those two things are being slapped together.
It's like we're trying to use Samir as this point of view when really all of that should have been given to Tony Shalhoub, to Frank. Like, make him the representation, not of like as a terrorist, but like as expanding on what we're already getting from him, where we're seeing his point of view. He's the man. He's an FBI agent, but he's also, I mean, man, the scenes he has where he's looking for his son are like gut wrenching.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Completely. And I agree with you. I think giving some more to the FBI agent sitting there saying, when Hub could have a moment where he's like, well, I don't get it, man. And then he could turn to him and be like, what do you mean you don't get it? Yeah. It's like, I get it. He's like, I chose to be here. I see the good and I'm working for the benefit, but like, how could you not understand why, these people over there are pissed off at us?
With this movie, this was kind of the vibe I got for it, which, let me know if you guys agree. It feels like there are several poignant scenes that were for sure like, okay, well then this is going to happen, and then this is going to happen, and then everything kind of between them kind of just is there. Meaning, like, for example, the scene where all the pagers start going off and they're in the theater, and you're like, something's going down because all of the important people that are here it's going nuts. Like that feels like, okay, we have that scene, and then it's like if you're fast forwarding the movie and it's stopping on all these key moments, you almost don't kind of need the in-between. Not that obviously you do need the in-between, but it kind of feels like that. Did either you guys get kind of that vibe of kind of major points strung along a line?
I don't know if I agree with that 100%. I know what you're saying, and I get what you're saying, because I think there's so many moments in this movie that are so great and memorable and
like cinematic moments.
Yes, very cinematic. And I mean, like, you chose the perfect example, like with the beepers going off. What a brilliant way to convey information cinematically and with tension. And this is why movies exist, is like scenes like this, where you can just kind of build to that moment where nothing is said, but everything is understood. And like the scene with, even though it was a horribly irresponsible thing to do. But when, Denzel chose to go in alone to save the children.
Where he's just like, the copter, the news is here. He doesn't want a repeat of the bus, and he's just like superhero it over the barricade.
Like, but in a movie reality, what a cool scene. It's all those things building up to it. But I think that like the moments that you have, like in between, like, after Shalhoub, hits Samir in the face while he's in custody. And then, Hubbard takes him aside and said, like, they don't, like, this isn't The Shield, or this isn't a show on FX. Do that
again, like you're
I'm going to have your badge. Like, you're done. Like, Hubbard goes in, like, he doesn't write him up. He doesn't fire him. Like he's still, law enforcement, they still cover each other, but he's like, you do it again, I'm going to have your badge. And he says, like, now, pretend I said something funny. Like we have those kind of moments in between.
Yeah.
And so I think the only time when I was really kind of like, okay, what are we doing here? Is when Elise was out for drinks with everybody else. That's when the moment where I was just kind of like, what? Okay, like
because that was after they thought they had got it right. They thought they got the cell, or they did. They get one of the cell. They just didn't realize there was more, and so and then again they have the pagers start to go off again, and it's like, oh, it's not over.
But see that all of these scenes, what they touch on that I think is the most fascinating / uncomfortable sort of thing is, I know that one of the writers of the film said that this was the most rented movie after 9/11 or something like that. And,
I don't doubt it.
I don't. He doesn't cite any statistics that I could challenge in any way, so I'll just accept it as true.
That's how he gets you.
Yeah,
by
exactly.
Not so citing anything, you can't contradict me.
Yeah, I can't prove him wrong. But the fascinating thing that it gets right is everything that led up to 9/11 is represented in this movie. Agency infighting, refusal to share information back and forth, puppy guarding chains of custody, and then finally you're at the point where the only way you can solve it is you have to have one strong presence come in and overrule everybody else. And it's like, that's what makes this, I think, a movie that, for any of its flaws, to my mind, remain ageless, because it reminds you of, no matter how well you build your bureaucracy, it's still a bureaucracy.
Yeah, that's America's nature.
We thought with the changes, we thought with the changes we made post this era, we were like, that'll solve the problem. And all it did was it just made them big problems that were on different levels. Like, it's like we just added a layer of similar problems on top of it. And it's like, you just can't solve it by creating more offices for people to sit in and trade emails and get mad at each other about, why didn't you share your witness with me? Yeah, well, that chocolate bar that I left in the park was designed specifically to lure somebody. Well, I didn't know that. I was hungry at the time. Like, what?
What we need to do is create a new department that could protect the land that is our home. I think that's what we need to do. Like, if we do that, if we add another agency, maybe we could name it something like that. I'm not sure, but that would solve all the problems. That was one thing that I think appreciated more as I got older about this movie. Because I saw this pretty young. When it came out in '99, I was 13. I didn't understand anything.
Right.
When
Action,
it came to
boom boom. Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
I didn't understand anything when it came to inter-office bickering or like interagency bickering and everything like that, because I think this movie does it really well, where, you're rooting for the FBI just because they're the protagonists, it's that protagonist syndrome where, whether you like the FBI or not, that's who you're rooting for while watching this movie. But to see the CIA as an antagonist, to see the military as an antagonist, to see the White House as an antagonist, and how they should all be working together for one common goal, it does not work that way. There's not an American goal. It's I said, it's the White House, CIA, FBI, military. It's everybody's working for themselves.
Speaking of the White House, there was a little bit of hubbub in the 90s from movies that started using President Clinton, either press conferences or, in the case of Contact, where they digitally took him out and made him appear in the movie and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And personally, I think they were just angry that he didn't get a SAG card and residuals after the film. But do you think that helps the movie, or do you think that it illustrates, I'm firmly of the opinion that it roots a movie so much in its own time that it can never escape it, to take the actual sitting president of then. I can never, I would prefer a phony president so that I can just play
completely
pretend.
Disagree. Oh, I completely disagree.
Really?
Okay. I'm more on John's side. It did kind of take me out of it a bit, because I'm like, oh yeah, okay, way back in the Clinton era, okay, it's like in Love Actually, where they year drop, hey, it's Miss Dunkin' Donut 2003. Every time I hear that, I'm like, you just pulled this movie into the past. It could have been any time in the last couple decades, but you just pulled it to the beginning of the millennium. But what do you think?
I don't think that's necessary with this film. I think this is the type of film that is very much rooted in the time that it's made. Even though this movie has timeless themes, unfortunately, this is a movie of 1998. Like this is post 93, pre 2001. And I think it really goes to show that when we see it and we see the Clinton era, this is pre-Bush, pre-Obama, and everything like that, and post-Bush, post-Reagan, and everything like that. So like when we see that, it shows us how far we've come and how far we haven't come, and it makes you think in a different way. Like if they didn't tell you what year it took place, if they weren't using flip phones or whatever, and they had Morgan Freeman as president, and and everything like that. Like I feel if they tried to disguise what year it was, I don't think it would hit the same way. I don't think it would. Some movies need to exist in its time, and this is one of them. And I feel like there are certain times when if you just use I like it when they like just mention the president, or we see an image of the president, or we just see like a press clipping or something like that.
Something real subtle.
Not even that far. Not even that far. Like if we just see like him on CNN and is like they repurpose a clip. Like I think one time they did that with Gore, where like Gore was giving a speech on something completely different, but they used one line from it to apply to something else. And like in For All Mankind or something like that. And, I like that because it roots in reality, but then every other time that he's mentioned, it makes it feel more real. It's kind of like when you see a movie uses real anchors, like from CNN or MSNBC and things like that. I feel like it adds to the realism of it, because when you see a fake president, you're like, nah, it's a fake president. Okay. We're now in a fictional reality.
I mean, I guess I would fall into the, I understand what you're saying. Still don't really agree with it because of the fact that having the actual president, I think it's for my money. If I'm a producer, I'm like, Eddie, baby, no, we're cutting that, because I would actually just cut any footage of the president, because we know the president will be there. So like have a press secretary or a secretary of state or something like that
in the same room as the president. Don't even mention.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. I could go with that. Like I would go with that more than a fake president, personally.
Yeah, I would too.
Look at us building compromise. I love it. See, this is good.
Well, and
building bridges.
There you go.
I think
not putting tanks on them.
That the thing that you said though, Tristan, that I think is really important in looking at this movie is, like you said, it's a post. I often forget how much of a post Oklahoma City bombing movie it is, because it's so overshadowed by 9/11. Like we started talking about that at the very beginning of this podcast. Like you can't not, but that hasn't happened yet. And so, yeah, this is 6 years, time math, after 6 or 7-ish years, that's enough time for Hollywood to like make a movie about that kind of topic and kind of bring it out, of the Oklahoma City bombing. Like I feel, not that it didn't happen, but 9/11 so overshadowed Oklahoma. Like it was off the radar. As when I think of like domestic terrorist events in America, I do not think of Oklahoma City. Like I remember it vaguely from my elementary school days. But so in that post Oklahoma City era, and then they're writing this story, they're taking it up. You're in New York now. It is kind of interesting how, again, as you're saying, not rooting it in an era or a year, yet any shot of the skyline where you see the two towers, you kind of know that it is pre-2001.
Some editions digitally removed
really?
Twin Towers. Yep. Not everyone.
Some editions. What do you
to make it more?
Apparently there were no post 9/11. They did that with movies sometimes where they would.
I thought you were talking about this movie.
No, they digitally removed the Twin Towers from the skyline in some of the versions they released
of this movie.
Of
the siege.
Yes.
I hadn't
remember that. I hadn't heard that.
I
watched the Blu-ray of this, and it was still there.
I'm sure that the versions we're
TV
looking at now
airings.
Probably, but there were that it just it's I never saw a version where it took them out, but like
so weird.
But the thing is, that was what they were doing for a while. There was a big debate about that when after 9/11 happened, whether it be I think it was like the Michael Douglas remake of like Dial M for Murder or something like that, where they recut the opening so that you wouldn't see the Twin Towers before they released it, because
I remember the Spider-Man changes, but that's the only one I think of.
Now, obviously they've walked that back with The Siege and movies in general, but this was one of those ones where they tinkered with it for a little bit.
And then you have Spielberg's Munich that slaps you in the face with it in the very last shot.
Yeah,
of the Twin Towers, where they digitally added in. Yeah.
Not the most.
Yeah, this was since we're still, we talked a little bit about the story at the beginning. We haven't really got into the editing or the direction or acting. Even really, we haven't really done that. And I say that, but one more time, we're going to talk about the extra stuff outside of this film. This film did not do well financially. I think one of the writers and one of the producers, said it was a flop because people were picketing it beforehand. Muslim Americans were picketing it and really pissed that the movie came out and everything like that. And, both Zwick and the writers and the producers have all commented on it, and there's nothing new to say. Movies like this exist, movies like showcasing, terrorists who are Islamic, exist in several movies. And this movie is no different. To me, it was really interesting to read that after the fact, because when I watched this movie, I know that there are morons out there who are just looking for an excuse to initiate a hate crime and to get angry at something, they'll watch something fictitious about a Muslim terrorist and then just go out and cause mayhem and strife and everything like that. And I was surprised to see this movie cited as a negative, because when I watched this movie, I didn't see that in the least. I thought this movie went out of its way to showcase how the Muslim Americans, were persecuted under martial law and unjustly so, and how the leaders of the Muslim community in the movie participated to help, the agencies, to find the bad guys. And I was when 2001 happened, when 9/11 happened, I was actually the one who was telling my friends and family, everybody watch The Siege, because this crap could happen. And we need to not blame our Muslim American brothers on what terrorists are doing. It's not synonymous. Muslim America is not synonymous with terrorists. And so I thought that this movie was showing a good thing. And so when you guys saw it in 98 and when you saw it today, how do you interpret that message? And now, granted, people who are listening, we are all, white, born and bred American Christians. And so we do not have an inside track on that. But as people from those demographics, how do you take that message back then to today?
No, I listen. I think that this movie, your own words, goes out of its way to not portray a group in a bad way, to illustrate. And if anything, the bad guy's the general, because he's the one that is behind the inciting incident for the whole thing. It lays it at the feet. And
every time he's we don't have him. I'm like, dude, we saw the opening scene. Right. We know you have him.
And I think honestly that it's a reaction to this movie is rooted in the same sort of reactionary reflex that every time there's a movie that deals with a theme about Christian faith or anything at all, and people are like, oh, of course Hollywood's doing their thing again, and it's well, did you see the movie to judge it? And I think, Tristan, you hit on the fact that people were picketing it before it even came out. And it's well, how can you picket something? And now, full disclosure, I'm the type of guy that's picketing to have anything get released, because that's the only way anything good gets made, is artists have to have the freedom to do whatever the hell they want to. If you don't like it. And I think that I do. I think it's a reactionary reflex that spurred that on and had people with a sober mind sat down and watched this film. Even if they watch a work print, I don't know how you could possibly walk away from this film and be like, yep, painted all Arab Muslims as bad people. It doesn't. It very specifically specifically points at Annette Bening and Bruce Willis. It is they're the a-holes, everybody. They're the ones that caused this problem when you really boil it down. And it's is Samir also a bad guy? Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
So there's the complexity in it. Is anybody more evil than anybody else? No, like that. And that's the point of your protagonists, right? Denzel Washington and Tony Shalhoub, they're the heroes. And you see that in a typical sort of story fashion, they're the good people surrounded by evil people. And how does the system, like they're fighting the system. If anything, I would have liked to see them get a little more dispirited by the end, to realize that they are the exception to the rule. Might be a little bit movie trope-ish, might be a little bit expected, but yes, this might have been a movie that called for Denzel Washington turning in his badge at the end and saying, screw this. I'm not going to take any part in this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's satisfying for the audience, because then you really feel like you lost. But
right. Instead, we get him arresting the general, and it's like it all becomes jurisdiction. You get the guns aiming at each other scene of like, stand down, Captain.
Yeah.
But I think what you said, Tristan, it's a cautionary tale, really. Like that is the siege, pre 9/11, post 9/11, both. Like it is the world we live in of sticking our fingers into other countries and other peoples, and I think the fact that it was New York City definitely relates a lot with 9/11, but it could have been LA, it could have been Chicago, it could have been any other major city with this happening, and it still would have been the same message of, like you said, that's really the message is this isn't everybody, and often the dangers come from within.
Absolutely. I do want to say that this, in my opinion, is a wonderfully edited film. This is like, I was just kind of in awe in how well this movie was paced from scene to scene, from shot to shot, specifically how the truck, filled with explosives driving to one federal plaza, intercut with
the tension,
the tension building, intercut with the DC scene where everybody's around the circular table and talking about bringing the military in for martial law. Like how that was cut together was just so well done. Also ballsy on the producer's point for using a van that way, post 93 in New York. But also like the use of slow motion during the first bus explosion, the non-paint explosion, and also the use of fake slow motion during the school scene. It worked both ways in order to give you a certain feeling. And there was never a time when I was watching this and I was thinking, that's why did they cut to that shot? Or like, this scene needs more coverage, or I have no idea where I am geographically. This was probably one of the best edited films, honestly, I've seen in a long time.
Well, and especially since a lot of the locations weren't landmarks. It's not like, oh, there's a bomb in Times Square. We all know roughly where Times Square is, or the Central Park, or the Statue of Liberty, or but yeah, the first like you said, actual bomb on the bus, not the paint. I love it's not bait and switch, but like the surprise, like the fact that it's working. Oh, I'm talking them down. Oh, they're letting people off, and then boom, and just it ups the stakes. This movie, you said, it was well edited. I think that just leads into story wise, like the way stakes are risen, the way we realize, like, I think it's good that they have that whole discussion about what is it going to be if we bring in the army instead of just, okay, time for martial law. It's like, no, let's talk about this first. And so we as the audience know what this is. And then couple that with Bruce Willis is, again, got all the great lines and the great speeches when he's giving that ultimatum to the television cameras. And he's basically laying out like how we're going to search the city. And like, you can't hide from me is terrifying. It is. And yeah, they're just so well told in this story, just, but maybe a little less Annette Bening. I think we're, well, let's, go through some of I think we've talked a lot about Bruce Willis. Let's talk about Annette Bening for a second. Cause yeah, I think I kind of agree with the direction we're kind of going of more sparingly would have been nice. I don't like the ending with her in it personally. I feel I don't know if it's overacting or underacting, but when she's like yelling at him to shoot her, like I am kind of over the scene and I'm like, what is going on? What is happening? It's like she's yelling in an acting class. It falls apart for me. And
doesn't sound desperate enough.
It's the wrong kind of pain. It's like, again, they're trying to do this whole switch of her redeeming herself by sacrificing herself. I don't know. It's too little too late at that point.
I think that's the moment where the metaphor struggles because, we all agree she's metaphorical for blah, 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 blah. And then at the end, it's a very real, like in that moment, she suddenly flips over into the more literal procedural stuff that's going on. I think that a stronger ending would have, in all honesty, not that I was there and not that I've ever made a big budget movie or anything, but if somebody had asked my opinion, I would have made her more chilling and had them solve it, have him die, and then have somebody be like, well, I know you were hooked up with it, and just like have her be ice cold, like, whatever, he's dead. Thanks.
So it's kind of
Bye.
Another Day at the Office kind of thing.
Yeah, and then like she goes off and you see her get in a car with another guy, that's like,
someone pulls up, she gets in.
A CI.
Yeah.
So like, and I'm not saying like another guy, like flippantly, like another Samir type of guy where she just like goes off and it's like,
nothing's
God.
Changed.
Right.
She's the exact
Exactly.
same.
She's just moving on to the next Samir, and whatever problem that causes, that's fine. That'll work itself out too.
That's the thing. There didn't need to be this story of regret. There didn't need to be this, oh my gosh, like we left them to die and everything like that. It was just
that's a lot of telling, not showing. That whole dialogue, like where she's like, oh, well, we did, like when they dropped the shoe towards the very end and she's like, well, this, we did this and we did this and then we did this. And I'm like, okay, we're in New York dealing with this right now, but sure, we can talk all about the past.
Because I think the scene where they just blew up the federal building and Denzel and his crew and his team, what's left of them, is in the hotel, and then Elise comes in and he is just
done.
having none of her crap. Like he is just done with her. He's like, what time? 24 hours to win. Like he's absolutely fed up with her. That scene is way more interesting, having an antagonist back and forth with them, like where they're supposed to be on the same team, but yet they're yelling at each other. That is way more interesting than her pouring out her heart and soul, in the car where she's talking about how like we didn't kill them directly. We just left them to die or something like that. Like that scene, I think, John, you hit it on the head where instead of making her emotional, even in that scene where she's talking about like how we just left them to die, she said like, yeah, I mean, like we didn't drop the bombs, like it was, we just had no use for them anymore or something like that. Like have her be like, yeah, that's my job.
A sociopath.
Yeah.
Just make
have her be a
sociopath.
Yeah. That would have been far more interesting and realistic and representative of our foreign policy.
Yeah. I mean, it's the tricky line that I think that this walks though, is the fact that it does allow you to know that it's a function of, I mean, I think that would go even more to the fact that these levers of power, when operated by somebody like Denzel Washington, are perfectly fine. It's when somebody like Elise is pulling the lever that things are wrong, and illustrating that like none of these people that we're interacting with were elected by anybody. They're just there. This is just their career. And it's like, oh God, if you hire the wrong person, oh no, what are the I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I just, there's so much about it that I want to love in this film, but it's that one character that it struggles with. I also think that the jump for Bruce Willis, it's not as clean as it could be. Like he's very, very much human being, doesn't want to do it sort of thing. I would have probably, well, I would have probably had him go in a little more humanely, gently into Brooklyn, and then have something bad happen where some of his troops got hurt. And that's the moment where he's like, fine, I tried being nice. Now I'm a dictator and everybody going to suffer. like I needed an inciting moment to flip him.
That would
instead it's just he gets power and then all of a sudden he's nuts. And it's like, yeah, no, let's give him something where we play on that fact we've seen him as a reasonable human being, something that pushes him over. And you realize that because he's military, right, he has two modes,
right,
human or bomb him. And it's like, and then somebody does something that pushes him over.
I'm gonna disagree.
Of course you are.
A little bit.
Sure, go ahead.
Because I feel like this is one of those things where, because I'm gonna like half disagree, half agree, and I'll explain myself. So like him going in full force, putting tanks on the Brooklyn Bridge, announcing his plan to the entire world and via the news, that's so badass to say, like, this is how we're gonna do it. This is how we're gonna find you. He's not being coy because he doesn't have to be. The United States military doesn't need to be coy because he is the broadsword. He's not the scalpel. And he's not worried about them hiding because they're already hiding. He's going to find them. So to me, the idea that he is that individual, he's like, you don't want to do this. You know, like the M16 is lousy, is noisy. Like it's going to be in front of your bowling alley, in front of your church and everything like that. You don't want it there. You don't want me to do this. But to me, like, he's that type of person who's like, I truly did believe him when he said that. But then when the president orders him to declare martial law on Brooklyn, he's like, okay, I am going to declare martial law on Brooklyn. That's how I'm not going to half-ass it. I have all of this, and this is how I'm going to do it. What I don't agree with the character is when he tortures the guy, not by not using non-invasive means. Like this is going to sound so disgusting, and I hope you guys just stay with me. But the idea that he could have tortured him by waterboarding him instead of cutting him and making a mess and then killing him. Why'd they kill him? You know, like that's what really doesn't make sense to me. And why did Bruce Willis, General frickin' Devereaux, have literally bloody hands? Like, why did he need to do that himself? And why did he pull the trigger to kill him? That's what felt weird to me. That was a story trying to make it so that Denzel could get the general at the end,
but
and caught him away in handcuffs.
I think maybe either I over communicated what I meant by him going in a little bit softer. I'm talking about, sure, he can declare martial law. I'm going to go in and then maybe give him a scene where he's like, look, I don't really want to do this, guys. I'm, you know, like he steps off of stage basically. And he's like, you know, this really sucks. And then have something that makes him that guy, that the inciting incident I'm talking about, that turns him into the guy that shoots someone in.
Okay. I think you're both saying the same thing. I think Tristan is saying in the movie, that part was kind of portrayed by the before he takes over. That's his resistance, his reluctance. And John, you're saying even after they put him on boots on the ground, an extra scene that kind of like flips that switch. I agree. I mean, it's kind of what we got and what we would like, you know. So
okay, I understand what you're saying now. We are saying the same thing, like that. Like, you're not talking about like once martial law begins. It's once he gets to the torturous point. There needed to be something that pushed him to that edge.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we are saying the same thing.
Yes, but just like my questions when I'm hosting, you're just stating it in a better way. So yeah.
It's true. Exactly. Well, that's why I'm here.
True. Yeah.
And it's interesting. Like, I don't know about you guys, the vibe I was getting from Frank and Hub as the FBI agents, in a way, like the CIA / government or the CIA / military, they were kind of like the feds, and the feds were kind of like, or like the FBI was kind of like the New York cops. You know what I mean? Like they like they're kind of trying to act like they're just working the beat, but they're FBI agents. They're not just detectives. Like, we're just going to take every player of, you know, NYPD Blue. We're just going to up it a couple notches in like political power. That's basically what they did. But see
that would have, a longer film would have given at least a scene to the local.
Right. There was nothing.
Officers. You know, it's like, we're going to come in, we're going to do this. And then the police chief would be like, shut up, police chief. At least I get that scene where it's like he tried to say something, but they just told him to shut up. So,
right. He's like, well, what do we do in this, you know, martial law? Like, well, consider it a break. Go on vacation. Go chill. Yeah. It's like, what? Of course not. It's
play like dominoes over there.
Their city's getting bombed. Like, they're going to react.
One thing that I liked was during the bus scenes, they were trying to say like, okay, you get the negotiator here. And he's like, oh, he's stuck in the bridge, or like he's stuck in the tunnel or something like that.
Yeah.
And so that's why they got Denzel to do it. Like they weren't trying to say that, like, oh no, like he would negotiate this. So like, no, like that's not how it goes.
They give a plausible reason for that. And he's obviously our protagonist. So that's the real reason why he's doing it. And it connects him to that moment.
But also at the same time, like when they raid the house that Elise is holding the mule in, part of me was just like, would the members of this counterterrorism team be the ones, like knocking down the door and like having like, having the machine guns?
It's like NYPD always does everything on if that's the level of the show we're watching. It's like they get to do everything, and it's like this is the FBI, so they get to do everything. And it's
one of those things where I'm just like, no, I'm pretty sure they have people who are devoted to that kind of thing, like at the FBI.
But no time, they're in the tunnel. Gotta go. Knock on the doors.
Everybody's in the goddamn tunnel.
Why do we build so many tunnels?
Well, the Lincoln Tunnel's pretty intense, from what I understand. So,
it's like in Dark Knight Rises. Send every cop underground. Yeah. Every single policeman in the entire Gotham City.
That's not a good idea, sir. I don't care. Go do it. All right. Well, and it was so funny. It's like last time I checked, we were only 25 minutes in. It felt like we talked about everything in the broad strokes of this movie, and now we've. But
before we close up, I gotta ask the question: where did you guys see Zwick in this? Because some of us know Zwick better than others, but we have one movie so far before we watch this. So now we have two.
That was almost 20 years before.
Right. So like, is there any, John, I'm going to ask you this question because I know that you've seen your fair share of Zwick movies. Is there anything that screams out to you when you watch The Siege where you go, yes, that is Edward Zwick. That is good old Ed Zwicky in this movie.
I would never call him Ed Zwicky, but if I'm looking, I would say that if just going with the text of these two films, is he's definitely a fan of I don't know how else to put it, but like the protagonist thinking expression shot, if that makes sense. Like there's a consistency in that you look at Matthew Broderick's character is and the way that Denzel Washington's character is, and when we know who clearly our main character is, so to speak, he's sure to give that person time to expressively reflect that there's an inner monologue. And so he picks certain moments and certain shots to make sure we focus on what they're telling us with their face non-verbally. That's where I would see something. This isn't something where like I could sit down with a Christopher Nolan movie and I'd be like, well, the way he saturates the colors here and blah, 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 blah. And the way we like our cool cyan wash here, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's nothing like that. This is something where it would be that would be the thing that I would say if I were to be looking really hard for a calling card, that would be it with Zwick.
Yeah. Also, I want to say I'm terrible with time math. 9 years later, not 20. I don't know what I was thinking. Early 90s, late 90s. All that to say, yeah, I'd say you kind of nailed it earlier, Tristan, as far as just kind of the basics, like knowing where we're at. Like we talked a lot about that in Glory. Like you never felt like, where are we? Now we're over here. We're crossing the line. So are the guys over there? Are they over here? Like I didn't think about it at the time, but looking back on The Siege, yeah, even though we're not in highly recognizable New York locations, we realize like where we are and what's going on. And there's tunnels everywhere that we got to get out of, all that stuff. But yeah, I'd say Zwick is just an excellent visual storyteller and building tension. I mean, there's a lot of tension in Glory. There's a lot of like unspoken tension. Like he's like the master of that, of really just showing certain things, be it the pagers, be it, just, I don't know. I kept kind of flashbacking to Die Hard 3 as far as the big broad strokes of someone's terrorizing and we're trying to find them, and and like they had like going after the school, like again a lot of similarities in that, but in this it it was so well done in how he communicates just the tension of the moment, the way people are feeling. And I mean, we've mentioned on it with Frank, Tony Shalhoub's character. Give that guy 10 more minutes of amazing screen time, and you would have given some nominations or something, because he was nailing it.
He brought so much heart and energy, and even at times levity. You know, like he was just less Benning, more Shalhoub.
Yeah, that's my review. That's pretty much it. How'd you like The Siege? Well, less Benning, more Shalhoub. I don't know what that means, but well, listen to Houselights. You'll get it.
Benning wasn't even in the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Why are you even saying less Benning, more Shalhoub? This is strange.
Well, yeah, and again, like that was fun. Seeing this again, now that I've seen shows like Miss Maisel or Monk, where Tony Shalhoub's had like powerhouse acting tour de forces. And it's just like, put the guy in more things, from Galaxy Quest to Siege. He just will not let you down ever.
Yeah, he is absolutely one of those actors that I think gets when people know who he is, recognize him as an actor, they love him, they adore him, and he gets plenty of recognition from people who pay attention on that level. But to the general public, where you're like, hey, don't you like Tony Shalhoub? Who? Like in essence, it's I would put him in the same category as trust me, I mean this is high praise, but the late great J.T. Walsh. Because when that guy showed up on screen, I was like, all right, I got at least one fantastic performance in this movie. Awesome. I know that guy showed up to work. Good. Thank you. That sort of thing.
Also, every movie is better with Lance Reddick than it would have been without Lance Reddick.
That is true. That is an accurate statement. I loved seeing him. I forgot he was in this, and seeing him walk on, I was like, yeah.
Just another character actor that, again, every time you see him, you're like, oh, okay, you guys, you're like, you knew who you needed to bring in, and Lance. And again, never a leading guy that I can think of, but totally committed every time.
And if you ever need more Lance Reddick in your life, especially, since his passing, and we find out that he's a huge Star Trek fan. It's a crime that he was never in Star Trek. Watch Fringe. He is I love friggin-tastic in Fringe. Yeah.
I agree with you. He's fantastic in Fringe, but for me, The Wire was the first time I ever encountered him, and he was freaking amazing in that show. Like ridiculously amazing in that show.
I mean, even in Young Sheldon, like he's just, he's been in so many things. You got me thinking now, putting him in Star Trek. I think he would have been amazing in the opening of Star Trek 2009 as the original captain of.
He would have been great.
Of that ship. Oh, why am I blanking on the name?
Farragut.
Yeah, the Farragut. Like the guy who goes down with the ship.
No, it was the Kelvin.
No, not the Farragut. Kelvin.
Was it Kelvin?
Yeah, no.
Why did I say Farragut?
I don't know.
No, you're right. Okay.
But yeah.
I know why I said I know you're right, but Darren's making a point. Who cares?
But I mean, not just because he's bald as well, but I think he would have been amazing in that role. A tiny blip role, but more.
Now you want me talking about 2009, and like I love that guy. Like I love that guy who plays.
No, nothing wrong with him.
The 2009
nothing wrong, but if I had to insert, this is the game we're playing, insert Lance Reddick into other movies.
Oh, listen, I'd say go big or go home if you want to put him in a Kelvin timeline movie. And I know people will roll their eyes, they'll groan. I'd have cast him as Khan before Benedict Cumberbatch. He'd have been a fantastic villain.
I thought you were going to say Pike. I thought you were going to put him as Pike.
Oh, would work there too. But see, this is the testament to Reddick is like, put him in any of those roles. I'm like, okay.
Sure. I would have made him a Vulcan, and we would have. I think he would have been a
head
stellar
of the science ministry, dropping some Vulcan logic.
That would have been a solid choice too. But again, right? What a testament to the guy's skill is like. There's none of us going like, no, I don't see that. We're all like, one too, that one too, that one too.
No, we were. I feel like I've pissed myself off because I feel like we were robbed culturally of him not being a Vulcan in Star Trek. But anyway.
See, this is why
he'd be smiling too much because he'd be having so much fun being on Star Trek that he couldn't help it.
But see, this is why the AI video generator has been created is now, Tristan, we can live the dream and put him into every Star Trek movie that we want to.
Well, on that note, as the AI takes the siege of our senses. Okay, let's do final thoughts and ratings on this movie. We're going to start with you, Tristan. It sounds like there are some highs, some lows, and some questionable thoughts on this. How are you going to rank the siege?
We're coming up on an hour here, so I'm going to keep it really brief. I love this movie. I think it's fantastic. I think this is a great film. This is just as
Riddell
good.
Family favorite. Sorry.
This is not a family favorite. Oh my gosh, no. My mother would not be watching this film. She'd be too stressed out. No, with this film, I loved it the first time I saw it. If I was to give this an emotional rating, it would be a 4.5 and a 5. And I kind of came into this conversation with a 4. But after talking with you guys and kind of disconnecting my emotional brain from my more analytical brain, I'm giving this a really solid 3.5. Like on Letterboxd, it's going to be a 3.5 and a heart. Like, I love this film. I think it's fantastic. I think it's really powerful, but there's a lot of core things that are wrong with it. I think that's the thing. Like, if it was just like a few things, or just like, this line was kind of weird, or we didn't need this scene, or the pacing was kind of off, it could have been a 4. Or more, but the fact that there's some like really clumsy stuff with the metaphors and with the net binning and everything like that, it's just like, 3.5 for me.
I agree. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts in this case. I will return to this. I will always rewatch it. I will always have deep affection. And I think Denzel Washington is fantastic. And I don't know what I'm going to do with the next movie, because he's not going to be in it. And it's going to be like, it's honestly
withdrawals.
It's going to be like somebody not showing up to a party where I'm going to be like, where is he anyway? Like, what's going on, man? But yes, like Tristan said, with analytical brain instead of emotional brain, 3.5.
Yeah, looking back at our statistics, this is the 6th movie in a row that's had Denzel Washington in it.
And it has been a blast.
It's a hell of a run. It has.
It's amazing.
Not a single bad performance in the lot.
Well, so I still don't give half stars. So for me, that 3.5, I would tick it up to 4. I can't tick it down to 3.
I think that's fair.
Just also for the fact that, like, I could pick out a dozen scenes from this movie and show in a teaching film class and be like, this is how you build tension. This is how you introduce a villain. This is how you get people on the side of protagonists. Like, it's all there. Like, it's wonderfully, wonderfully told. Yes. Does it have missteps? Yes. Is it too short? Do we want more of this actor, less of this actress? Yeah, that's all true, but I can't give it a 3. That's too middle of the road for this. I own it. That always gives it a little bit of a bump, just if I'm willing to purchase it to watch. So yeah, that's the siege. So next week we're gonna jump into the next decade as we're doing our decade by decade with Edward Zwick, and we're going to 2003, The Last Samurai. Sadly, not with Denzel Washington, here on Houselights.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.